It's the weekly show about rAVe with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.
Steph, how's it going?
Gary, I'm doing good. How are you?
Today's one of those days. We got like 5 things going on at the same time. We're recording for a client. We're doing a live broadcast for a client, and you and I are doing rAVe TV live. So it's like one of those things. And I'm actually getting ready to teach my class at UNC. So therefore, we're all over the place, aren't we?
I know. This is just like, it's one of those weeks where I feel like each of us has had a million things going on. So I'm very glad to take a pause this week, do this show with you.
Yeah. We're not having as bad of a week as Mark Zuckerberg.
No, he's having an awful week. Yeah, let's talk about what happened on Monday, because like everything that Facebook owns was down, and it was horrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's every platform, like, primarily people use Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, and what am I missing, Steph? There's one other I'm missing. What am I missing? Those are the big three. But
yeah, those are the big three. What was it? The one that you can call people in other countries. Yeah, WhatsApp.
Yep.
And then so everything that Facebook owns was down. So that wasn't great for our social team on Monday. So shout out to our social team for pulling through on that one.
Yeah, you're watching our weekly TV show, rAVe TV, and this is Gary K. I'm with Steph Beckett. We're coming to you live on ravepubs.com. We're coming to you live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter, and we're doing the best we can. We had to pull this live together ourselves today because our production team is busy doing other stuff. We want to thank Ethan in the background here, who's sitting in a Starbucks, who's actually going to make the camera switching happen for us. But we got some upcoming launch events. You want to talk about those stuff?
Sure. Let's talk about the upcoming launch events. So we've got a few things coming up in the next couple of weeks. We have a Launch and Learn with Herman Pro AV. We have one that we're doing through our own called the Girl Boss series, done by Megan Dutta. And that one's all about just like women in the industry, helping to get the job you want, knowing how to speak up for yourself. So just a really great theme. And I think that she's got to have some really great speakers and presenters for it. So that's a really great series. We're also doing an reality Launch and Learn. Is that everything?
Yeah, extended reality. There's some. I'm hearing a little bit of skipping going on there, but I just want to see everything. Just go to launch.com, LAVNCH. That's a screenshot of launch.com right now. So if you want to sign up for any of our events, they're all free. A lot of them get you VIXA CTS credits, but most important, they're all learning events. The Girl Boss one is specifically for women in the AV industry who are interested in learning more about how to amp up their personal profiles to help them get better jobs, get better opportunities in the company that they're in. And that's a big thing for Megan Dutta, as well as yourself, Steph. Y'all have been big supporters of the women in AV community, women of a VIXA community. And we're trying to kickstart that on the launch platform to give them a place to have events going constantly. But the XR thing I'm very excited about, because we have AR, which everyone's familiar with Snap and things like that. And in fact, we have a new AR feature coming out in our next version of our app, which we'll talk about sometime later. We have VR, where you put on a headset, right, and you're able to be in virtual reality. But then there's XR. There's a lot of opportunities in XR for the AV community. And so we are launching a new publication to cover that. We'll talk about that in a later episode. And Megan's going to lead a session to teach you about XR technology and what you need to know in the AV industry. Sign up for that at all those, actually, at launch.com, LAVNCH.com. We're also doing a client launch. I can't remember which one is coming up first. Do you remember which one off the top of your head?
It's not Herman, is it?
I don't think that's the next one. You'll have to, I guess we'll all have to go to launch.com and check it out. LAVN.
Well, yeah. So one of the first Girl Boss one is on the 18th, and Herman is on the 19th.
Oh, there you go. The Herman AV one. So, but I'm excited because we have an awards program unlike anyone else's in the industry. And the nominations are open for the 10th annual Reader's Choice Awards. And here's the thing that's really cool about these awards. everyone else's awards in the industry, for the most part, are pay for play stuff, meaning you have to pay to enter the awards. So you have to pay a fee to enter the awards program, and then you get considered you get consideration to be, to win an award. So in a way, that's kind of pay for play, because if you can't afford the awards entry, and by the way, these awards entries range from $600 to $2,500 a piece. Ours are free. But the other thing, Steph, as you know, is we do nominations and the awards. So the nominations come from you, the readers, the viewers. You get to go in and plug in any product you want in like 30 different categories. So you nominate, we take the top 3 nominated products in each category, and then we have you vote on those. So it's a 2-step process. Step 1's nomination. That's what's open now. The awards will be awarded on your special broadcast. Steph, you want to talk about that?
Yes. So we're doing a very special broadcast called Replay when we come back, like the week after we come back from InfoComm, and that is all about doing a wrap up of everything that we've liked this past year, not only at InfoComm, but just things that have been released in the industry in general. So yeah, we're going to be announcing that then. We're going to have a lot of really great guest speakers and stuff, and we're getting all those lined up. So it's looking like it's going to be a pretty great event. What do you think, Gary?
I'm excited. Very excited about everything we have going on this fall. I mean, we're not going to have a traditional show like we're used to having. And by the way, we can take the nomination screen share off. I think it's good for us to just, there you go. We're not going to have the show we're used to having, Steph, but we're going to be there. We're sending, we normally send like 35 to 40 people at InfoComm. I think we're sending like 15. So we're definitely sending less people there, but we're going to have we're going to cover the show in a very unique way. We're going to do week of live coverage, but then we're going to do week after coverage in this replay thing that Steph just talked about. We'll talk more about that maybe next week or the week after.
Yeah, as we get more information and as we get more guests officially lined up. But yeah, we're working hard on it. So I think it'll end up being a really great event.
Yeah.
But yeah, Larry, let's talk about the news, because there's been let's have another acquisition corner here. We've had another acquisition in our industry. So NICE acquired Nortec Security and Control. These are both 2 home AV companies, but Nortec Control is a pretty big one. So I thought it would be worthy talking about the acquisition, because that's pretty news.
Yeah, I mean, in the high-end residential market, this is a big deal because Nortec has so many different brands out there, and NICE is a good partner for them. But now they're, it's just there's further consolidation in the market. We've seen a lot of consolidation over the last 10 years in that market. In fact, I don't know that we've seen that market kind of figure itself out. Steph, I mean, you go to CEDIA and it's a lot like CES. You go to CEDIA and it's a lot like InfoComm. Then you go to CEDIA and it's a lot of education, but it's not really. Like InfoComm, I feel like has a really clear identity. It is the place all commercial AV companies go to see the new products and technology and education. I feel like CEDIA has some work to do. There's some confusion over who owns CEDIA, meaning CEDIA, the association, which is called CEDIA, is different than Show, the CEDIA Expo, which is also called CEDIA. That is confusing as heck. Even, quite honestly, even people within CEDIA are frustrated over it. And I think that some changes need to happen there. And I think Jason McGraw being there in the Expo side and then CEDIA, the association, hiring a new CEO sometime in the near future. I think over the course of the next year, things are going to be worked out. But that market is ripe for some big companies coming in. And I think this is a good example of that acquisition.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, as CEDIA Expo is getting a little bit bigger, right? Because this past it's become UC technology has become very important in the home AV space as more and more people build home offices. So in that sense, CEDIA has had to get a little bit bigger to fit this whole other vertical. So with any type of new growth like that, there are always going to be a little bit of growing pains. Do you think that there's a chance for them to handle it really well and to keep growing successfully? So I agree with you.
I agree.
But yeah, so our friends over at Legrand AV, in place of a commercial this week, they wanted us to share with you guys this study about women in the workplace, which is done, I think, by McKinsey and Company. Yeah, it says that on the bottom left. But if you're watching on LinkedIn right now, Kelsey or someone will drop that in the link so you can check it out. But I did want to make just a few notes about it because it brings up a lot of really important statistics in this. So during COVID-19, women representation at the corporate level actually improved, but which is great. But on the other side, there was a really high employee turnover, which is kind of, we're going to talk about that again today, but there has just been a lot of employee turnover in almost every industry right now. So that's just something that I think COVID-19 kind of sparked. And another important statistic is that representation of women of color definitely falls off relative to white employees and men of color at every level of the corporate pipeline. So women of color are definitely severely underrepresented at the top. And that is in every industry. That's not just in AV, but that's everywhere. So I think the importance of this study is it brings things like this up. By showing the different statistics that McKinsey helped to her. And by getting statistics and showing these in this type of study, it kind of helps us understand, okay, where are the holes here and what can we do in our industry to help fix them? Because I've definitely been loud and not definitely been upfront about my beliefs that the industry should reflect the rest of the world, and that includes by representing every type of person, at the top, at the bottom, at the middle, and I think this study definitely will help solidify and help kind of be a catalyst for that type of change. We need it.
And it's great that the Grand is willing to pay for it and push it. Right?
Yeah, well, it's not their study, but they sent it over because they were like, hey, this is important. I know that you care about this, and we care about this too, and we want everyone at our to read this and be aware of it so that we can start promoting change, and we want you to share that with your watchers as well. So I thought that was really great that was something that they wanted us to take some time to talk about. So if you have any questions about it, you want to talk about it, feel free. I'm linked here on, so you can message me about it if you have questions or want a copy of it or want to talk about it, want to argue with me about it, whatever.
That never happens, does it?
And no, never. But yeah, I think it's important, and I'm willing to die on that. So I'm glad that they sent that over.
Excellent. All right. So where are we at now? What's our next story? Let's see. Coming up, we've got. We got the story on. It's a column. It's a column. Yeah, I guess you'd say.
So,
go ahead.
This is part 2, and I've definitely talked about part 1 or show before. This is from Michael Katz. And it's in his series on how to get the job you want. And this is all about selling your value and really making yourself sound and, knowing what experience to bring up in job interviews, how to get the right job interviews, how to reach out to people. Just because Michael has had a crazy career, he's done a lot of different things. So I think he figured hey, I've got a lot of advice for people looking for jobs right now because so many people are. So let me do a series and just write all of this advice down, get it on paper. And I think it's very great. It's very useful advice. And, one of the most important things, key takeaways from this article is that he's like, don't be afraid to just reach out to people. Which Gary, that's something that you've kind of taught in your classes as well. Don't be afraid to just see someone company and reach out to them on LinkedIn.
It's amazing to me how often people are afraid to reach out and make a cold call introduction for help, right? I mean, whether they're seeking advice, a mentor, and of course, the younger you are, the more cautious you are about it. My daughter's used to ask me all the time, should I send an email? Should I ask? And I'm like, the answer is always yes. Don't even bother asking me. The answer is always yes. And you should also connect with all your professors and all your people that come in and guest lecture. Same with our industry. If you're going to a class at Infocom, you're going to a class online, you're in something like this, you should be connecting with everybody that is in that class and explain to them, hey, I was in the class. I really enjoyed what you had to say, because you never know how they're going to be able to help you. I mean, you know me, Steph, I talk to everyone on an airplane. So I get everyone's business card, even when I'm traveling, because I never know, you never know who you're going to meet, but also you never know how you're going to be able to use that information to help you.
Yeah. That's true. And like something that I've realized, I'm still fairly young. I'm still relatively new in the works, but something that I've realized in my few years of working here, working at other places, is that people want to help you. So like, it's not bothering them when you reach out to them on LinkedIn. It's not bothering them when you send them an email, because legitimately I found that if people can help you, they want you. So 100%. I think that is just a golden piece of advice to take with you, because my biggest thing was, I don't want to reach out to this random person. I don't want to bother them. I don't want them to think I'm weird. No one's going to think you're weird. No one's going to think you're bothering them. Like, if they have a job opening and you're reaching out, they want to give you that information. So knowing that and taking that with you is probably one of the golden pieces of advice I've got in my time.
Yeah, I agree with you. And hey, what's big news this week? I think this is kind of cool, just because I'm impressed with the milestone. I mean, to have any company in our industry celebrate the shipment of 2 million of something is pretty amazing. And BrightSign celebrated this week the 2 millionth media player shipped, which is just staggering to me. It just shows the growth of our industry, and also sort of the normalization of digital signage. And what's happening is I'm actually teaching a class today about the emergence of DOOH versus traditional out of home. And I'm saying, where did that money come from? Because DOOH has doubled in size twice in the last 5 years. And I'm showing where that money came from. And it came from television advertising. Companies that used to spend money in television advertising are now spending money in digital out of home, which is part of that is the digital signage market.
No, I 100% agree. And it really just shows how important digital signage is, because they shipped their 1 millionth media player in 2017.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so it is completely doubled between like Q4 2017 and now. So it just really goes to show, it's like literal proof that DOOH is not something that you should ignore or say it's not going to be that big in business, because it very, very clearly is.
100%. You're correct. And that brings us to, first off, thanking our sponsors, Legrand and Shore, for everything they do for our broadcast, allowing us to bring this to you for free every single week. We're here every Wednesday at noon Eastern, and we've got a message from Shore.
We've seen nothing less than volatility in the stock market over the past 12 months. We should certainly be bracing ourselves for more of the same. Based on what we've learned from history, it would be a good idea for our investors to look to hold tight.
So, I have 2 apples in my basket, and I say to Mr. Jumble, can I have one of yours? How many apples do you think
Excuse me? Can I have your attention, please?
So, how many apples do you think I'll have if I take one from...
Hi, Grandma. Hi, Granddad.
Hello, darling. How are you?
Don't forget to plug in your mic.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loads better.
Who are you waving at?
Oh, it's just our neighbour.
Sorry I'm late.
As I was saying, the compelling opportunities in the stock market have the potential for a solid year of returns, which would be consistent with the second year of a bull market.
I like that. That's actually a really creative spot. I had not seen that before. And I read this article this morning, actually, The Great Resignation in Higher Ed. I didn't know what the heck he was talking about until I read it, because I'm not that connected to what's going on in that side of higher education. But this is a great piece from Scott Tyner. Scott is in charge of AV and a lot of IT at Bates College, and he's writing about how they're losing talent.
Exactly. So there's been a great resignation in the workforce across the United States. And one of the places where that is significantly felt is in higher ed. Just because a lot of what's been going on in COVID, people have been leaving jobs, starting new jobs, looking for different jobs. And just with all of the stress, I think, and all of the push for a successful hybrid education implementation, it's just creating a lot of stress and a lot of burnout in the higher ed sector. And a lot of people are feeling that. Like, Gary, I'm sure you are trying to, even as just a professor, to figure out the best way to teach your students. So I think that there's just been a lot of burnout that people have been trying to cope with across higher ed. And so a lot of the ways that they're coping with it is by resigning and moving on to something different. But he writes about...
Go ahead, Steph. Go ahead.
He just writes about a few pieces of advice to kind of help really retain talent in higher ed and ways to successfully move forward.
Yeah, and I think part of it is also, I think the best way to say this, I think part of it is also more money. Let's put it that way. You get paid a lot more money outside of public education than you do inside of public education. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Yeah. It's hard to compete with what the salaries are. And I think what's happening is, integrators need more people. I mean, everyone's hiring right now. I walk around, the grocery store's hiring, the retail stores are hiring, the restaurants are hiring. I mean, like, everyone's hiring. So therefore, if you're working in higher education and your maximum salary is $54,000 a year ever in the position that you're in, because it's all public data, and you have an integrator willing to pay you $65,000 a year to start in that position, then you're going to probably move over that direction. So I think, let's say what it is. I think it's hard for public to compete with private. That's just the way it is.
That's true. Call a spade a spade. I agree with you. I think that it with all the burnout and all the things that it's taking to try and figure this out, if you're also not making what you could be making somewhere else, that's definitely going to contribute.
100%. And I don't know the solution other than resetting the salary scales. And, that is a huge thing. And of course, what's happened now in higher education, I'm sure you've seen it, Steph, the articles at least, is that there's cutbacks everywhere. There's an article in today's paper about our own university cutting back on library the fees. There's not going to be as many books, and there's not going to be as many subscriptions in the libraries for students to use. The economy's, we're in a shift in the economy. We're going to have to figure out a new way of doing things. And I think part of that's going to be, how do we save money, but how do we teach students using digital tools rather than traditional analog tools? And I think it's about time. But I think the salary issue is a bigger issue, because if you don't have, I saw someone post on my Instagram this morning that says teaching is the only job where you're teaching other people how to do their job in the future, right? It's something like that. Every other job, you already had to have learned that information. In teaching, you're learning somebody how to do their job. You're teaching them how to do their job in the future.
Exactly.
And K through 12 is even worse. So we talk about higher education here, but K through 12 is even worse. You and I love immersive exhibits. We've talked about the Van Gogh exhibit endlessly. We did a session yesterday with Epson where we talked about all these different immersive applications. And I love what's going into malls and these immersive play places. But the Van Gogh exhibit, hey, a lot of people wonder who did the audio. Meyer Sound did the audio.
Which is interesting because, when you think about installation, you're like, why? It's art, it's quiet. But it's really made to be a very immersive exhibit. So it's got a lot of really cool projection. And of course, for a truly immersive experience, it includes appealing to your senses. And one of those senses is your ears. So, Meyer Sound are the ones who did all of that really cool, sound throughout the exhibit that kind of changes as you walk around to go with the different paintings. I'm sad that I haven't gotten to see it in person, because I've heard it's really cool. I think Anne Marie, she is one of our coworkers here at rAVe. She went and she said it was really great.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal exhibit. The point is that audio is always going to be around, and audio is the emotional connection to the visuals. You very rarely get sent back in time by looking at something, but you often get sent back in time in your brain by smelling something or hearing something. So you hear a song and it reminds you of a memory of some type. You smell something, it reminds you of a time. But usually when you see something, it doesn't remind you of anything. It's not same emotion. So audio is not going anywhere. Meyer's just saying, hey, we're not going anywhere. And the reason why you enjoyed the Van Gogh is, the images were awesome, but the audio is part of the immersive experience. So that's
when they sent us that case study in it, they said something like, in the very first sentence, they were like, yes, Van Gogh cut off one of his ears, but if he had both of them, he sure would have enjoyed hearing Meyer's sound.
It was a daring title.
I was like, I cannot believe they put this in here.
It was a daring title. I liked it.
That was a lot.
I was wondering if you were going to keep that or not when you read the story.
I did not, because I was like, I don't know about this, but I did think it was funny, so I did at least want to bring up that they wrote that in there. So
it was worth a chuckle. You have been watching rAVe TV, which is our weekly TV show where we talk about the news of the week from rAVe, and you're seeing this everywhere. Join us every week at noon. Gary Kay and Steph Beckett. We are out of here.
It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.